live and direct from anywhere in the world. It's The Kelley Show with Dr. Kelley Mondesire.
Hello and welcome back to The Kelley Show. Real people with real stories in real time. And I, of course, am your hostess with the mostest, Dr. Kelley Mondesire. And as usual, I'll share a fun fact with my viewers today about myself. One of my favorite pastimes is to make homemade pasta. Linguine, fettuccine, ravioli, tortellini, pappardelle, you name it, I make it. And it is part of my Italian heritage, which I am very proud of. And yes, I am a mutt. So moving right along, I have a very, very, very special guest on today. And my friends, this gentleman is so special, I have to read small smidgen of his credentials and what he's done. My very special guest, Mr. Ian Franklin, is an entrepreneur and philanthropist. He is a high net wealth and ultra high net wealth billionaire space international expert and connector. He is a former Spears 500 top-end global headhunter and talent strategist. He is a LinkedIn advisor, speaker, and founder chairman of the Lordian Group. It is a great pleasure, honor, privilege to welcome to the show today, Mr. Ian M. Franklin. Ian, come on down.
Thanks very much for having me on your show.
How are you?
I'm good. Thanks very much.
Well, Ian, you and I met online during a mutual friend, Mr. Lee Tunnyware's networking sessions. And we recently had a one-on-one where we shared not only our love for high performance automobiles, but also our love of giving back and philanthropy. Can you please tell me where you're from, where you are right now, and how you became involved with philanthropy, becoming a philanthropist, and what philanthropy means to you?
Okay. Lots of good questions there to unpack, and I look forward to answering these. Yeah, I was born and raised in London, in the UK. I now live in the north of England, and I come from a historic family where there's a lot of philanthropy being involved through my ancestry. And what is important to me, I think, having been brought up in a philanthropic world and also learning on the other side of the scale, but business and entrepreneurialism, I suppose a jigsaw puzzle of philanthropy on one side and business on the other. So I am a businessman, I am an entrepreneur, and I make sure that philanthropy, which is crucial to me, does fit into everything I do in business. That relates and reflects on what I do as a social, strategic and impact philanthropist. And I can explain that a little bit later if you like, but also on the basis of the basics of CSR, social responsibility, ensuring that I can put funds from the business that I've got in the Lordian Group of businesses that I've got into the various charities, foundations and causes that I heavily support. And I think we'll probably talk about some of those organizations a little bit later. But having been brought up with philanthropy and having come from a long line of philanthropists, it is something that I think is very much natural to me, that I do enjoy doing, and also looking at what philanthropy, the meaning of philanthropy is, and how it really originated. Of course, philanthropy itself was originally a Greek word, and the English translation of philanthropy is love of humanity. And that, I think, is really what the core is that goes through my body on thinking about philanthropy and making my active world in a philanthropic world as well, if that makes sense, Kelley.
It does indeed. And thank you for defining what philanthropy actually means. And it seems to be in your DNA. And in our private conversation, thank you, Gareth, for putting up this slide. These are the various foundations, organizations that you're involved in. Aside from telling us about each one, can you please tell us why you've chosen to be a champion of these particular foundations, please.
Certainly. I'll pick upon three of them because because I'm working with all three at the same time. Earlier this year, I'm 70 now, and I was thinking about supporting some grassroots causes and charities for my 70th year. And when I say 70th year, I'm talking about from the dates of April the 1st this year to September the 5th next year, which is the day before my 71st birthday. And by looking at these grassroots charity, I would raise a lot of awareness of them, and hopefully along with that raise funds and help their growth in various different ways. Now, those three charities that are on the screen at the moment are Free to Fly, Varna Trust and Seed. Seed is an eating disorder services charity, and the founder and the CEO of Seed is quite a well-known British actress and radio presenter. But she herself, when she was in her teens and in her very early 20s, suffered from anorexia. She's 40 now, and she now educates, when she's not working as an actress or radio presenter, she now educates children, teenagers about the perils of eating disorders. And Seed is the charity that really is behind her on that, to really put the message out there. Free to Fly is a small charity that's based in the south of England that focuses on abuse during pregnancies. Now, it's important not just for the message to be put across by women on that, but also from men who can talk about this freely. And I should be talking quite a lot about Free to Fly over the next few months on social media, and focusing on various things that can occur with Free to Fly and how funds can be raised. They, in fact, now have just launched, in fact, today, when we're recording this, a lottery. So people can buy lottery tickets and win a prize of some sort. But that's one way that charities are raising funds as well. The Varna Trust, you see Varna on the screen at the moment. Varna Trust, I'm a patron of, a co-patron of. There are 4 of us patrons, and Varna Trust was founded in 2003 by a lady called Nyasha Gwasito in Zimbabwe. And it was focusing then more on education in the communities in Zimbabwe and allowing various ways for children who weren't otherwise being able to gain education through poverty and through other reasons to gain education. In the United Kingdom, the Varna Trust also has a presence, and the presence is in the form of a farm, a fully working farm in the south of England. The farm focuses on inviting people who have got various neurodivergence, ADHDs or Asperger's, autisms, and so on, to actually go there on a regular basis and to experience the therapy of being with animals and working with animals, and also the crops and everything else that a farm does. That's the charity that is Varna Trust. You'll see reference to 3 others on the screen there. Africa's Gift, I'm an ambassador for. Africa's Gift was founded something like 20 years ago by a gentleman called Dr. Ken Dunn. And Ken went to Africa with his family, had a holiday there, went to Lesotho in South Africa, and realized that there were lots of things that needed to be done predominantly in the context of health initially. One of the things he created was a thing called an eco cook bag. The reason he created this is because he went into a community. He went into various houses in these communities, which were often just one room with the family living in one room. And they ate over and around an open fire right in the middle of the room itself. And the vapors and the fumes and smoke coming off this fire were causing health problems with the family members themselves. So when they were cooking perhaps a chicken or a fish or whatever they were cooking, they would start it off in a pan over a small fire, and then they put the fire out. And then place the pan inside this large insulated bag, which is made out of materials, which has an insulation material in between, a hemp material in between. And it works. It's a simple solution, very simple solution. The pan goes in there, stays in there for about 2 or 3 hours, and it cooks the food, the fish, the chicken perfectly. And this became a massive thing in Lesotho in particular. And a lot of people began making these. The local community started making the eco, and now it's quite well known outside of Lesotho. Ken is also focusing on quite a few other issues. At the moment in Lesotho and South Africa, there are serious drought and also heavy rain issues going on, where the two don't really mix very well. And so he's working with various bodies in Lesotho and other countries to help the growing of crops and growing of food, vegetables and fruit and so on, that otherwise would have been perished as a result of the floods. And there's a new system of horticulture that's been created down there, which I won't describe on this call, but that would be something that I can explain in greater detail if people contact me. The other two charities, the CEO Sleep Out is well known in the UK. It happens all over the country throughout the year, where people who are in business, entrepreneurs, people at the top of their companies and so on, do a sleep out for one night, with the aim of raising funds for local housing and vulnerable charities around the UK. Housing is a problem, and it's something that I'm quite passionate about as well. I should be doing a sleep out in Manchester, UK at the end of October. But as I say, they do happen all over the UK throughout the year. And a lot of funds are raised, and it works very, very well indeed. The other one there is Fatima's UK campaign. This was founded by the former Olympian, Fatima Whitbread. She was an Olympian and an athlete during the 1980s, javelin thrower. And she was raised in care and foster systems, but the care and foster system is broken, and it still is broken. It was broken at the time when she was a child, but is broken now. And the whole point of Fatima's UK campaign is to raise funds and awareness to put to government various remedies to see if there could be a repair system to the care system in the United Kingdom. This is going to be focused a lot in April of 2025, when there will be a 2-day summit in London, which she will be hosting, and will follow up with a dinner with some well-known supporters, famous people there as well. And hopefully the message will be put across to UK government and other resources to see how the system can be modified in its various ways.
Wow. Thank you for sharing all that with us, Ian. Being that this is a global show and our viewers come from all corners of the earth, can you tell me and tell our viewers how the everyday Joe Schmo, all the ladies and gentlemen, and otherwise our viewers, how they can become philanthropists or contribute or give back? And I know we have a slide of you speaking in front of an audience. Can you tell us how you go about spreading the word and sharing what your organizations are doing, or what everyday people can do to help out those who are most vulnerable and unfortunate?
That particular picture is a typical example of how to get the message across, speaking. For everybody who is a speaker, and those who are aspiring speakers, it's a great way to get a message across. But if you are not used to philanthropy and how to do it, philanthropy is not just putting money into a collection box on a regular basis. Philanthropy covers a lot more to it than that. It's active work. Anybody can be a philanthropist. It doesn't matter what demography you are, what background you come from, whether you're rich, wealthy, poor, or however. Everybody can and anybody can do something for a cause or more than one cause. With me, yes, okay, it's been part of my life all my life. But on the other hand, yeah, okay, charities and causes do need your money, but at the same time, you can ask other people for money. And I spoke about the CEO Sleep Out a moment ago as a typical example of this, where you raise, or if you take part in the Sleep Out, you raise money for a selection of housing and vulnerable charities in the particular geographical area where you're doing the sleep out. So it's a case of knowing what becomes your passion, knowing who the charities are and causes are that cover the passion that you've got. For me, I suppose my core passion in philanthropy is housing and those with particular vulnerabilities in various different forms. You know, whilst SEED, the eating disorder charity, is a vulnerable scenario and also can affect people's own lives, and particularly whether they are homeless or whether they can, you know, especially if they're rejected, which does often happen. That's a typical example of that. I mentioned Free to Fly, abuse during pregnancy, and people do find themselves in homeless or vulnerable situations in that sort of scenario again. So it's all coming back to what my core passions are. So identify what your core passions are. Find out who your charities, not necessarily the local ones, but you know, the national ones, even to an extent international ones are, and just ask them, what can I do to help you, apart, as well as, if necessary, giving money, or apart from giving money as well. Become an impact philanthropist. Do something in particular. One other charity, and I'll elaborate on this a little bit. One other charity that I haven't mentioned at all, that I do very heavily support, and I've supported since 1981, is in Britain, the Royal National Lifeboat Institute. I was affected by a major disaster in December 1981 called the Penlee lifeboat disaster in Cornwall, because I was there at the time and I saw what the effect of that particular disaster had. It was also one of the first times when people were invited to make donations over the bank counter. You know, obviously we didn't have technology in paying by cards back in 1981, 82, but people were encouraged to make donations, big or small, over the bank counter, your local bank, to help the people of the local communities down in Cornwall who were literally affected by the disaster itself. There was a strange scenario relating to that, because a lot of the money that was collected, and it was over £3 million, which in these days would be a lot of money, was not really welcomed because the communities were still a community and they'd never experienced wealth on money before. But a lot of the money, of course, built a new lifeboat for the community, and helped with the funding of a new lifeboat station, and of course went into the coffers of the RNLI itself. And I've heavily supported in an impact way and a strategic way, and to an extent a financial way, ever since until this day. And you know, that's been a key charity for me, and that's a passion charity. So if you are becoming a philanthropist, find out about what your passion is, or something that can create a passion for you, as that did. And also find local small charities, because grassroots charities, such as those I've previously described on this call, are ones that are critical for help and support and money.
Even on this side of the pond in the States, from the local church or mosque or synagogue, whatever it is, temple, to groups of neighbors getting together, especially with the last hurricane that came through and devastated Tennessee and North Carolina. I mean, I had ridden my Harley just 2 months ago through all those roads, and I've been there several times. It's a beautiful landscape, and I'm appalled at what's going on and how every single one of us can do something to alleviate the suffering of those, even in a situation as dire as that. Gather blankets, food, diapers, whatever it is, get it to a central place, everybody get organized, and when you can, ship it out to those in need. But Ian, when you are not involved with so many organizations and doing so much to champion those who need our help, what else are you up to? And we have a slide of you here, certainly not sleeping out, but can you tell us a little about what's going on here, who these folks are, and what's happening?
Earlier in 2024, the gentleman I'm shaking hands with there is King Letsi III of Lesotho. I just previously described a little bit about the work of Dr. Ken Dunn and Africa's Gift. And this gentleman is the monarch of Lesotho. It's a historic monarchy in Lesotho, in South Africa. So he was in the UK. The gentleman with his back to us is the British High Commissioner to Lesotho. And they came over with various members of their government as an official visit earlier this year to come to Sheffield, where I met them. And they also have various other appointments, shall we say, presentations to do around the UK whilst they were here. And one of the reasons why they came here, and this was to the Sheffield Hallam University, was to talk a little bit about the work of what's happening in Lesotho, as well as, of course, the work of Ken Dunn and the cocoa bags and other things. So I was there. I was privileged to meet His Majesty and the High Commissioner and various members of the government. You can see in the background there the Lady and Lord Mayoress of Sheffield as well. So it was very much a presentation for the day, and a very important day for both Sheffield Hallam University and also various other locations they went to, and of course for Africa's Gift and the other charity that Ken Dunn runs as well.
Wow, it seems like you don't really get a day off. But my next question to you is, where do you see the world? What would be your vision for the world if you had your druthers?
Oh gosh, what a question. More support, more evidence-based information about how causes and charities work in philanthropy. There is still a little bit of ignorance out there as to what charities actually are. You know, it is an educational process. There's always, here in the UK, there's the traditional charities that everybody knows about, like the RNLI I just mentioned a moment ago, and also the various British Heart Foundation and the big charities like those. But it's the grassroots charities, the very tiny grassroots charities, which are critical to helping and supporting others, as you yourself just mentioned a few minutes ago, Kelly. And so these are the critical ones that have got to have a name out there in some way. Kind of a public relations exercise to an extent, but at the same time, if people are aware of them and really why they do exist, then the message is going to work in the context of, and its funds, which are critical, of course, to their survival. So yes, I would like to educate more as time goes by, and I think if my peers also do the same, other philanthropists. I'm in business, I'm an entrepreneur, so I can do this also through my business to an extent, but also independently outside of my business. I do this and try and educate the wider world out there. Not just what I'm doing, like doing sleep outs and things, but also, of course, what you're trying to pass the message, put the message across as to what other people can do.
Exactly. Well, Ian, I want to thank you for sharing with us what it is to really be a philanthropist and devote your life to others out there that need our help. But it is the tradition of the Kelley Show to ask each and every one of my guests if you could name a person, place, thing, or experience, or in your case, I know you have two, that you're thankful or grateful for. Who would they be? Do share.
Okay, the two, as you mentioned, one of whom is my kind of business inspiration, and the other one's my philanthropic inspiration. And on the screen at the moment is the 7th Earl of Shaftesbury. 7th Earl of Shaftesbury was nicknamed the social reformer. He was good friends with people like Bernardo and Charles Dickens. And this was in 1844 when Lord Shaftesbury introduced a bill to Parliament, the British Parliament, to kind of create an education system for the children in England and Wales, where otherwise they would not have had an education, again, through poverty, through crime, and through other situations and homelessness. And the Social Reform Act of 1844 was the start of what is effectively the social and education system that we have today here in the UK. And if you think, and I mentioned he was good friends with Charles Dickens. If you think Charles Dickens's most famous, or arguably one of his most famous writings, was Oliver Twist. And if you look at the content of Oliver Twist, that was in some ways a little bit of an inspiration towards the Social Reform Act that Shaftesbury put into Parliament. And Shaftesbury himself became a great philanthropist. He really put philanthropy on the map by doing what he did. And the result of which is, as I say, we've got a system today. Yeah, okay, in the UK, I can't talk about for other countries, but in the UK, certainly there are certain areas that need looking at, but there are a lot of charities, a lot of causes that were created as a result of Charles Smith's work. And so he's very much an inspiration, I suppose, if you like. The other person is Richard Branson. Now, he's business. He's entrepreneurialism. Everybody knows who Richard Branson is. Virgin Records, and of course, how he started long before Virgin Records started. Virgin started was he had a publication at university, which turned into a small business. And after he left university, to cut the very long story short, of course, Virgin was created with the Virgin record label originally, with Boy George and Culture Club and Tubular Bells with Mike Oldfield and so on. And that was very much history in the making at that time, way back in the 70s. And then, of course, we saw what happened with Virgin, Virgin Airlines, Virgin Atlantic, all the other Virgins, and everything that Richard Branson has done since. And of course, he's now in his mid-70s. He's certainly not going to give up soon. And he's got great support and assistance from his family. Holly, his daughter, is very active on a lot of the philanthropic causes that the Virgin family, if you like, undertakes, as well as, of course, inspiring people into going to business and entrepreneurs as well. So, being
a half American, I'm always a fan of self-made entrepreneurs that make it big and give back. So, I'm a big fan of Sir Richard Branson. We're gonna close the show, but folks, viewers out there, I want to thank Ian first of all for sharing his time, his generosity in his expertise and educating us on how each one of us can make a difference in other people's lives. Every small bit counts. But for those who would like to contact Ian, we have his information up. We're going to put it up now. Please reach out to Ian Franklin. We have his information. Ask questions if you'd like to contribute your time, your funds, small, great, large, it doesn't matter. Here's his information. And Ian, thank you once again for being on The Kelley Show. And to my viewers out there, if you would like to be a future guest on The Kelley Show, write in. See, it's all down here. You got all the information you need. Write in, give us your name, where in the world you are, a brief synopsis of what your story is, but more importantly, why you would like to be a guest on The Kelley Show. And stay tuned for our next show when, of course, you know it by now, it's a secret. My special guest is going to come on and share the most incredible story. They're all different. And I don't just have schmutz on this show, as we would say in Queens. It's a new word, schmutz. No schmutz on The Kelley Show. So stay tuned for next time. Peace and love. Gareth, take it away.
If you would like to be a guest on The Kelley Show, send us an email with your contact information, where in the world you are, and a brief description of the story you'd like to share today.